Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition here of the Friday Fix on the Flicksation Podcast. I hope everybody's 2021 is better than whatever that was that we just dealt with. Not out of the woods yet, so anyway, Happy New Year to everybody. I'm here with Alan, the Listman Robinson, as per usual when we're doing the Friday Fix. Alan, what is going on, man?
Oh, not much, Eric. Thank you for using Alan. Just for Jason and Quinton, in case you guys don't know, I decided to go back to my real name. I've been using Al since I was about 14, but this year has just kind of put things into perspective. And I really haven't felt like being in the Al type of mood lately. So, so nice to be here tonight. And yeah, what a crazy past couple days. Had some issues with snow. In fact, Wednesday was very touch and go, just trying to get home. I got to work at 1 p.m. I was told we could leave at 6, and then at 4 I was leaving, and it took me an hour and 10 minutes to get home because it was complete whiteout blizzard conditions, and I could not see more than 15 feet in front of me, and the windshield wipers were freezing up on me. What a disaster. But I made it back. And I'm here today to give you guys my list, and I cannot wait to hear yours.
All right. Well, a first here on the show, Al, as we have a father-son team with us here tonight to talk another year here on the Friday Fix. Jason and Quinton, guys, are back. Jason, what's happening?
Not much. Very, very happy to be here doing the show with Quinton, and especially doing this year with Quinton. I think this would be a lot of fun musically for him. Eric, I think we're going to struggle a little bit here, but...
You don't say. You don't say. Quinton, welcome back to the program.
Thanks a lot, Eric. Yeah, I guess I probably chose this year for obvious reasons that we'll get into a little bit later, but more so because I fucking knew that you guys would struggle, and it's the same way I struggled on the 1995 episode.
All right.
Yeah.
Almost a little payback.
maybe just a little bit. Yeah.
Nice. All right, guys. So we are back here to talk another year here on the Friday Fix. This time, 2013. We're going to be discussing on the show. One interesting bit to note here is this would be the first year we've discussed on the show here, Alan, that actually the Flicksation Podcast was in operation during this particular year. So first time we've encroached that, Al. I took a look on my top 5 films of that year, so we'll see. There's some difference here. So much later than I'm used to doing for these shows, Al.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, that's awesome. 7 years, that's a good luck number, so... let's hope that that'll carry over then to 21 blackjack.
Yeah. All right, so we typically have one of the guests bring the year with them. Quinton, you alluded to it earlier. What is 2013, man?
It was the year that I graduated high school and also the year that I joined the military. So it was a very big transitional year in my life. A lot of stuff going on. I sort of developed into my own sort of thing of appreciating movies and music even more because I was transitioning into adulthood. And everyone here has done, I believe everyone here has done the years they were born and the years they graduated. So I just sort of thought it was fitting. And also in our discussions earlier in the week about doing something post 2010 would be fun as well.
All right, so let's take a look here at the year 2013. We're going to list our top 5 albums, our top 5 singles from 2013, and our top 5 films of that year. So as always, we start out with albums here, Alan, and I think you probably had an easier time than Jason or I, but before we get into albums, Al, what were you?
Yeah.
Where were you about in 2013? What was the time in your life, and what was going on?
So I had 2013. I had regraduated from college 2 years prior in 2011. In 2013, I think I was working part-time only. That was one of those years where I did not have a full-time job. And
Sounds fantastic.
so I was probably working about 4 hours and then going home and drinking some beer.
You bastard. All right. Music that year, Alan. What do you think? And let's talk about your honorable mentions for your top 5 albums of 2020.
Sure. Well, so when I first looked, I thought, oh dear God, there's nothing to pick from. And then the further I looked, I thought, okay, that's not really true. There are musical artists that I like a lot. The albums they released that year are just not one of my favorites. They're not the ones that I go back to a lot, but there was still good music. So, Quinton, I appreciate the challenge. I was up for it, and I think I did okay.
All right, honorable mentions.
Yeah. Sure. So I decided to come up with 5 honorable mentions. So I put them in alphabetical order. You guys are probably going to think I'm hilarious with my first pick. Every once in a while, I do like pop music. And so I went with Big Time Rush 24/7. I also went with Eminem, the Marshall Mathers LP Part 2. Not as good as the first one, obviously, because the Marshall Mathers LP is an all-timer. But there's still some good stuff on there. And, at that point, I think he was trying to clean himself up. Queens of the Stone Age, Like Clockwork, which is definitely a unique listening experience. Josh Homme decided to kind of go a little bit more mellow with that one, not rock it out as hard, but still some good stuff on there. Speaking of rocking out hard, though, I got Seven Dust, Blackout the Sun. And I'm always up for some Seven Dust, especially Lejean Witherspoon's voice. That guy can just sing. And then I have to do it, and again, I have to apologize to Ian the Minister. I have Thomas Rhett, It Goes Like This, which is his country debut.
All right, sounds good, man. What is your top 5 albums of 2013?
Sure. So once again, I'm bringing the pop. I have a huge crush on her, and every once in a while, I even like her music. I have at number 5, Katy Perry with Prism. At number 4, I have probably my favorite country artist right now, Luke Bryan with Crash My Party. And then I go a little bit more rockin' with the next few. So at number 3, I have Five Finger Death Punch with their double album, The Wrong Side of Heaven and The Righteous Side of Hell, which that was the first year when I discovered Five Finger Death Punch, and I thought, holy shit, these guys are fantastic. Speaking of metal, at number 2, I have Avenged Sevenfold, Hail to the King, which I think is honestly the closest thing I've ever heard to a version of the Metallica Black Album. And they even have a Black Album cover as well. And it's just incredible heavy metal. But number 1, and I cannot believe I did this, but I actually did this. My favorite album is a soundtrack, believe it or not. And that is the music to Inside Llewyn Davis that specifically offers Oscar Isaac, Justin Timberlake, and Adam Driver, for instance. I mean, it's folk, but it's incredible music to a very good movie. And I just had to do it.
All right. Not bad, Al. Not bad at all.
Thank you.
All right. You picked the year, Quinton. You graduated high school that year. We got that. So what are you thinking here for honorable mentions for albums in 2013?
Yeah, so this was the year that I had really started sort of getting into like alternative music, and the indie scene was kind of shifting at that point. So I have The National, Trouble Will Find Me as an honorable mention, and Arcade Fire's Reflector as honorable mentions. And then I also have the Marshall Mathers LP Volume 2 on honorable mentions as well. And then the last one was the first time I had heard, or the first that I had heard from Chance the Rapper, and that's his Acid Rap album. And it's sort of been hit or miss with him since I had heard that album, and I had heard it back then. But I enjoy it, but not quite enough to crack the top 5. But yeah, I just have those 4 very close honorable mentions.
All right, your top 5.
Okay, so coming in at number 5, I have Queens of the Stone Age is Like Clockwork. I know they had originally talked about Trent Reznor coming in and producing the album. I don't know if that ever happened. Does anyone know if he actually came in to produce?
I do not believe so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But that was sort of their invite to have everybody come on and do all of these features. But I have that at number 5 because there are 4 more albums that I listened to significantly more than that album. I'd actually probably heard that Queens of the Stone Age album like a couple of years afterwards.
Yeah, it looks like, according to Wikipedia, it looks like the producers are all the guys in the band, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's at number 5. At number 4, I have Arctic Monkeys' AM album, and it's an album that I enjoy probably a little more now than I did then on a re-listen here recently. I think it's some of like Do I Want to Know, which is the opening title. The opening track on that album is probably my favorite song. This was the second album I had heard from Arctic Monkeys in full, and I think when people talk about like alternative albums from that year, this is probably the album that they revert to as the one they remember the most. At number 3, I have Lord's Pure Heroin. This was when Lorde came on the scene in the United States. She just blew up, and she was I think like 15 or 16 at the time, and I think it's her best album to date. She's sort of kind of fallen under the radar because of Billie Eilish has taken over the throne of being that older teenager, like very dark, melodramatic kind of pop star, mainly because Lorde is just not that age anymore, and she's grown as an artist. But I remember when this album came out, I was in love with it. I loved the way she sounded, and she was very angsty.
It's safe to say you were on her team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. At number 2, I have my second favorite Kanye album behind 808s and Heartbreak, and that is Yeezus. I remember specifically buying the CD of this album when it came out and listening to it in my car because I guess I had learned how to drive like a few years before this, but I played it over and over again. But yeah, it's my second favorite. I think it's probably his best that he's done like since. But Ye versus the People was good a couple of years ago, but this is yeah, definitely my second favorite. And at number one, I have Drake's Nothing Was the Same. And a little bit about this. The first time I had heard this album, I had just graduated from boot camp and I had moved to my first school in Naval Air Station Meridian, Mississippi. And someone had gotten this album and they were blasting it in the barracks that we had lived in. So I was hearing this album almost every single day at night. And obviously, like, you know, there were songs on it, like Started From the Bottom was, you know, topping the charts at that point. And Hold On, We're Going Home was topping the charts. And I was listening to the thing every day. And I fell in love with this. My favorite Drake album by far. And it was, without a doubt, at the very end of 2013 as well, my favorite album by far of 2013. So that is my top five.
All right, Jason, you and I were mid to late 30s, probably not a whole lot different than we are today as far as tastes and movement goes. I was still pretty much listening to stuff that I liked from 10 plus years ago at this point in my life. There really wasn't much new stuff other than new stuff coming from old bands I already liked from the older days. I don't know, what was your situation in 2013?
I still found myself, I think I tried to do this every year still, Eric, is I still like to kind of dig in the crates and really just try to find some stuff out there. Yeah, I still do tend to go back to 90s music quite often. But every year I try to find my at least 10 favorite albums, usually based off of that year. In 2013, going back, actually had some really interesting, diverse types of albums out there. And I think my list is really going to reflect that, Eric. I'll be interested to see if we do have some crossover in here.
Well, I'll tell you right now, two of my five have been mentioned in some capacity by Alan or Quinton. So there's still three out there, and it's very possible you touch on all three of these, no doubt. But let's get a hold of your honorable mentions here, Jason.
Honorable mentions, I guess I have really no order to them. Valerie June, Pushing Against a Stone. Some like British throwback Amy Winehouse type singer-songwriter. Really, really good. Lucius, Wild Woman. Some sisters, singer-songwriters. Really, really good. Band, Eric, if you're not listening to, I highly recommend Russian Circles, Memorial. Post-rock, like Slint, Explosions in the Sky, stuff like that. The one I think is on your list that's been mentioned by the other two, Queens of the Stone Age, like Clockwork. And then my last honorable mention is The Magic Clouds, Impersonator.
All right, your top five.
Coming in at number 5, I love this band's work. It doesn't matter what they put out. I just love it. Vampire Weekend, Modern Vampires of the City. My number 4 actually comes Quinton. You had posted this little game on Facebook where you posted an album and you couldn't talk about it. And then you had to mention or nominate someone and they had to continue that for like 10 days. Eric, did you ever get wrapped?
Yeah.
Eric, I think I
did as
wrapped
well,
you
yep.
up into that game.
Could be. I definitely did it. So
Oh, okay. So anyway, Quinton had posted this album one time, and I was like, well, who is that? I was kind of really into the album cover, and it was this artist, J. Cole. The album was 2014 Forest Hills Drive. Did not come out this year, but that album is a really, really, really good album. Quinton, thank you for introducing me to that.
I love that album.
J. Cole did have an album come out this year in 2013 that I love called Born Sinner. Quinton, I don't know if you listen to that album quite often, but oh my God, that album is amazing.
Yeah, I've listened to it. It's actually one of my ironically, one of my least favorite J. Cole albums. But I like it a lot because I think J. Cole is sort of like in the upper echelon of greatest of all time sort of thing in terms of like mainstream guys. But yeah, I do like that album quite a bit. But I guess I was surprised that it maybe didn't, when I was like thinking back on it now, that it wasn't, I didn't even put it as an honorable mention.
Yeah, that album has so many awesome hits to me. Really, really enjoy it, and it's because of that other album, Quinton, which is an amazing album as well. The reason I really like that. Coming in at number 3, Erica, are you really into like drive-by truckers or that alt country type scene like that?
I like some of it.
Okay. Jason Isbell used to be in the drive-by truckers. At this point, has went solo or with the 400 unit. But his solo album, Southeastern, is an amazing album, and that came in at number 3 for me. Number 2, Quinton actually mentioned it. The National, Trouble Will Find Me. Maybe doesn't have my favorite National songs on it, but it's probably the album I like to listen to front to back most by the National. And then number 1, Phosphorescent Muchacho. That album is fucking awesome.
Wow. Digging deep there. Wow.
Muchacho. All right. So, yeah, my top 5 albums of 2013. I didn't look into any years around this, but this one was really tough for me. I came up with 6, guys. 6 that there was definitely some things I thought I should have heard, but I just didn't know enough to include here. So anyway, I have 6, which leaves me with 1 honorable mention, which Jason actually just mentioned on his list. Vampire Weekend's Vampires of the City, my honorable mention there. So my top 5. Nobody encroached the other 3. So these 5 and 4 you guys mentioned, but 3, 2, and 1 all hitting this for the first time. Number 5, Queens of the Stone Age, Like Clockwork. Number 4, the Arcade Fire's Reflector, which is actually my favorite album of theirs. So my number 3, The Strokes' Come Down Machine, their 4th album. Not my favorite Strokes album, but still a very solid one. That's at number 3. Number 2, I'm surprised this didn't make its way in there, but the self-titled Beyonce album comes in from 2013. So always kind of a fan of hers, but that is her favorite, or my favorite album of hers. So self-titled Beyonce, number 2, and number 1, band I love. Their 4 albums. This is probably my 4th favorite, but still a great album. Odd Fellows by Tomahawk.
Ooh, good choice.
There it is, guys. The top 5 albums of 2013. Alan, let's talk your singles. What have you got here for honorable mentions for 2013?
Yeah, so songs was a little bit easier to pick from because I'm like, oh, okay, that song. Oh, yeah, that one. I forgot that one came out. And I forgot to mention earlier, the beautiful thing about trying to come up with this list was I had recently signed up for Apple Music, so I could just keep adding stuff and just downloading it right to my phone and listening while I'm at work. And that was actually a nice distraction to work. So, and in fact, Quentin, you already mentioned Arctic Monkeys. Yeah, do I want to know? I think I do because I'd heard that riff before, and I had no idea that was them. I mean, I honestly thought that sounded a little bit more like the White Stripes. Hell of a good song. Nobody has mentioned this guy yet, but this is back when Avicii was still alive.
Yeah.
And he had that song "Wake Me Up."
Yep, just missed my list. Good tune.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was between that and "Hey Brother," which is another good one. Eminem, "The Monster." It's an interesting rap song. I'll say that. Although Berserk is really the most interesting off that album, but like "The Monster" is generally like the most poppy, I guess. And of course, you can never go wrong with Rihanna. Lady Gaga, "Applause," just because I like the sound and the disco-ness of it. And then this one I did not expect to even be a top honorable mention, but Natasha Bedingfield's "Pocket Full of Sunshine," which of course reminds me of the 2010 movie Easy A. So,
sure.
Pretty funny.
All right, so before you give your top 5 singles, Al, anybody?
Yeah.
But let's cast lots right now for how many people put Gangnam Style or What Does the Fox Say in their top 5 singles of 2013, because that's the year, the magic year of those two huge, gigantic hits that are still with us today, guys. So looking forward to hearing those on everybody's list. Al, your top 5 singles of 2013.
So I do not have Gangnam Style in my top 5. I really considered it though. Ultimately, I'm like, no, that would be too annoying. But that's still a good song, and I do recommend that everybody go check out Psy's other music, because I feel like he's been overlooked now because he's actually got good stuff. But I have at number 5 Fall Out Boy. My songs Know What You Did in the Dark or Do in the Dark. It sounds like the beginning of the show Cops. Okay. At number 4, I have Katy Perry's Roar, because I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think she's hot, and that was a good music video. Number 3, this song always makes me want to drink. Avril Lavigne, "Here's to Never Growing Up," which is cool because she also mentions Radiohead in the song, so props to her. At number 2, I have Big Time Rush, "We Are," which is arguably one of my favorite pop songs of the past 10 years. And at number 1, I wanted to have a tie here, but I ultimately picked one over the other. I go with Oscar Isaac and Marcus Mumford from the Inside Llewyn Davis soundtrack. It is, of course, "Fare Thee Well," Dink's song. It's so goddamn good. And especially when you just put like the movie to it, the whole thing from the cat getting out of the apartment to him on the subway. It's incredible song, and I've never been able to get that song out of my head.
All right, there you go, Al. Your top 5 singles. Quinton, any honorable mentions?
Well, Gangnam Style is not here at all.
It's not. That's too bad.
I do remember on December 21st, 2012, when the world was supposed to end, sitting in my third period agriculture class, watching the YouTube view counter go over 1 billion for Gangnam Style.
Incredible.
Mhm.
I would not be surprised if Gangnam Style is still on the billboards. Honestly, I mean, yeah. But yeah, no Gangnam Style, no What Does the Fox Say? Although I vividly remember those being such a huge deal. But so for my audible mentions, I have four here. I have Mumford and Sons, I Will Wait, Lana Del Rey's Summertime Sadness, Arcade Fire's Reflector from their Reflector album, and lastly, Vampire Weekend's Hannah Hunt, which is a very, very depressing song about life passing you by faster than you'd want it to.
All right, top 5.
Okay, so coming in at number 5, this song, the first time I had heard it, I was driving down to the military entrance processing station in Des Moines, Iowa. And I had heard it. It was the first time I had heard it, and it was the last song I had heard before going off to basic training. And it is Miley Cyrus's "We Can't Stop." I legitimately think that this is probably one of her best songs ever. It was a summer smash hit. I get out of boot camp in late September, and the song is still on the radio. Number 4 is Lord Royals. This is another song that was sweeping the country at the time. It's arguably her biggest song she's ever made, and it's a really great song. It's very a lot of people make the Billie Eilish comparisons with her based on this song alone. I love this song quite a bit. Number 3, I have Eminem, Rap God, and a little story about this. We were buying speakers for our barracks room. There was a common area in the middle, and we were going to buy a speaker system for the entire barracks, and we were shopping for it. And the guy that worked at the store, is probably Best Buy or something, was like, "Hey, have you heard the new Eminem album?" And we were like, "No." And he played us this song on the speakers. They were Bose speakers, and it's an 8-minute song for one, or a 6-minute song, and all of us collectively gave our money away and bought the speakers because of this song. At number 2, I have Kanye West's Black Skinhead, which I think is probably the song that people remember off that album the most. I think it's because the intro samples. Oh, I can't even remember what the intro samples. It's my favorite song off that entire album. Out of the entire, besides Blood on the Leaves, out of the entire album, I think it's probably the best one as well. And at number 1, I have Drake featuring Big Sean and 2 Chainz, All Me. This is off the Nothing Was the Same album. This was a song that I still repeatedly go back to and listen to, and I know all the lyrics to, and I enjoy listening to the song a lot. I think all verses from all 3 of them flow really well. The chorus flows well, and it was by far, looking through the entire list of popular chart toppers and really great stuff that sort of flew under the radar. It is by far my favorite song of the year. So that is All Me by Drake featuring Big Sean and 2 Chainz.
All right, Jason, your honorable mentions for 2013 single.
So actually, gonna just skip honorable mentions altogether. I just put together 5 singles
Perfect
that I enjoyed. So coming in at number 5, Jason Isbell, "Cover Me Up." Love that song. Great opener to the album Southeastern. A song that I put on my singer-songwriter playlist quite often. Number 4, like the gentleman before me, Lord Royals, definitely swept me that year as well. Amazing tune, great production, and yeah, maybe not a huge Lord fan overall, but I do love that song. Number 3, I'm going with J. Cole of Illuminati. J. Cole released that album the same day as Kanye released his album, which is quite a hard thing to go up against. But I think that
Done
opening
completely
track.
on purpose.
Yeah, he did. And that opening track definitely takes shots at Jay-Z and Kanye. It's pretty entertaining, actually. Number 2, I'm going to go with Valerie June, Somebody to Love. Just an amazing song. If you guys have not heard that song, please listen to it. It just needs to be heard. And number 1, Phosphorescent Song for Zulu. I would also say another song, if you have not heard it, do yourself the favor, listen to it right away.
All right. So went a little different route here, Al, for what I did in singles this time around. So I could only come up with 6 albums to talk about earlier, so I decided what to do. I put those 6 albums aside. I wasn't just going to pick songs off those 6 albums. I thought, what the fuck? And I took all of my top 5 off of the end of the year Billboard Hot 100 of 2013.
Wow,
So,
that's bold.
so we all hear these pop hits a lot. So I kind of sat around with Spotify one day, probably listened to 25, 30 songs off of the Hot 100 from 2013, and these are the 5 I came up with. I won't take any guff. I like some of these songs just as kind of a, while it's on at work, I don't hate it kind of thing. So, not saying I love these songs, but it was a tough year for me. So
I don't hate it. Kind of like the year 2020.
Right. Well, oh no, I hate 2020. So that's
I know.
Okay.
Eric, before you get started,
yes.
Are you sure that you're comfortable with doing this?
Oh, I don't care. I've got nothing to hide.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure.
All right. So starting at number 5 here. No explanation needed. Everything has changed. Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran on that one. Number 4, Counting Stars by the band Old Republic. I don't know whatever happened to these guys. I don't know if they have other songs. I just remember, oh yeah, that song. I liked that song. Number 3, Ain't It Fun by the band Paramore. Another kind of, I don't know, not pseudo-punk necessarily, but kind of a No Doubt-ish type band that kind of cracked into mainstream there with a couple of hits in 2013. Number 2, I like these guys all the time. Daft Punk's Get Lucky. So I can always go with some Daft Punk typically. And number 1 here for me, the number 1 single of 2013. Yeah, I really like this tune, Pompeii by the band called Bastille, which actually has a number of songs that I like. So, but yeah. You guys know any of them? Well, you know the Taylor Swift song, right?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I know Paramore, Daft Punk, especially. Well, heck, I think Daft Punk won the Grammy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Pharrell on that one too. So, not the year of any of his albums, but Pharrell on like just about featured on just about every other tune in the. Glad nobody picked Robin Thicke, guys. So good for
Blurred Lines. I love the video though.
All right, so yeah. So let's move on to the films of 2013. A little more to talk about here, as far as I'm concerned, because definitely a good year of films. Yeah. So Alan,
sure.
This is a kind of a big deal year of film for me. This is the first year I flew out to a little place called Telluride, Colorado, for the Telluride Film Festival. This would have been the year that was their 40th anniversary. So it was an extra day long, so it was 4 days. I met Robert and Jericho in person for the first time at this event, so pretty cool. I saw 17 films in 4 days, including a bunch of great ones. I saw Inside Llewyn Davis. I saw 12 Years a Slave. I saw Gravity, Labor Day, Nebraska, the Gia Coppola movie with Val Kilmer. I forget what that one was called, but that was good too. Tracks I saw, 17 films. Pretty surreal experience. Love that place. We'll go anytime. Hope to get back there again soon as well. So,
was it legal weed the first time or no?
This was the last year. This is the last year before it went recreational. It was legal medically, so you weren't bothered if you were doing it, I will say, but it wasn't. You kind of had to provide your own without medical clearance. So the dispensaries were only selling it to people with like medical things at the time. But we brought our own, so we were fine. But it wasn't quite to the extent it is now, but it was sort of legal at the time. The last year of it. So Al, honorable mentions for films. What did this? Some big stuff here, Al.
Oh, so good. I mean, the funny part is 2013 is one of the most stacked years for movies, and so much so that it's almost hard to even pick. But I actually came up with 7 honorable mentions, and I just put them in alphabetical order.
All right, now before you go, Alan, one thing I forgot to do, I always like to read the top 10 money winners for gross box office from that year, just to put the year in perspective. The number 1 film of 2013, this is also kind of a money perspective thing, but just breaking $1 billion. And there's only one film this year that made it to, no, never mind, 2 just barely broke $1 billion. Number 1 film of 2013 in gross sales, Frozen. Number 2, also breaking $1 billion, Iron Man 3. Number 3, coming in just short of that, Despicable Me 2. Number 4, The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug. Number 5, The Hunger Games, Catching Fire. Number 6, Fast Furious 6. Number 7, Monsters U. Number 8, Gravity. Number 9, Man of Steel. And number 10, Thor, The Dark World. So there might be 1 or 2 of those on the lists here. But Thor, The Dark World, what
money
a
does
stink.
not equal quality.
Thor, The Dark World, not good. Yeah, not good.
Oh, my God. Yeah. No, I do have a couple of those, I believe. Or at least one of them, I think. So my honorable mentions, I have Before Midnight, which is, I think, probably the best of the trilogy and one of Richard Linklater's just overall best films. Captain Phillips. Tom Hanks was robbed for an Oscar nomination for that one. 42, which I believe is the start of Chadwick Boseman's career. So R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman for this year. Her. The Place Beyond the Pines, which I always feel like is very underrated. And the last good Derek Cianfrance movie. Prisoners.
And I believe the first movie score ever done completely by Mike Patton. So.
Oh, okay. Prisoners, which is where I got introduced to Denis Villeneuve. And,
also at Telluride.
And it wouldn't be 2020 without some kind of virus. So, of course, World War Z. Had to make that awful joke.
Notice nobody's laughing, Al. Just I want to accentuate that.
We're all laughing on the inside. Except me. But that's because I'm silly. So at number 5, I have one of my favorite Roland Emmerich movies. It's just Jamie Foxx and Channing Tatum kicking butt, and that is White House Down, which is just so dumb and so fun. At number 4, Rush, which is a very underrated Ron Howard movie, and frankly, just an underrated gem in general. Very, very good performances, especially Daniel Bruhl. So good. At number 3, I mentioned the music already, Inside Llewyn Davis, which is still one of my favorite Oscar Isaac performances, if not my absolute favorite. At number 2, I almost want to put it as 1B, and it was number 1 for a long time, but the more I thought about it, it's ever so slightly 1B, and that is Gravity, which is still probably my favorite movie-going experience of the last 10 years. I mean, I felt like I needed to wear a seatbelt just to see that movie. And number 1, it is the party movie of the decade, total debauchery, and that, of course, is The Wolf of Wall Street. Leonardo DiCaprio should have won his first Oscar for this movie, not The Revenant.
I absolutely agree.
Thank you. He is so good in that movie. Although what sucks now is everybody keeps using that meme, "I'm not fucking leaving," for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I will say that was my number 1 film of 2013 on the Flicksation Podcast. So I will see if it makes it in here still. But yeah, Quinton, honorable mention films 2013.
Yeah, so I think I have like 8 or 9 honorable mentions. The Place Beyond the Pines, Derek Cianfrance, Fruitvale Station, which was I believe Ryan Coogler's directorial debut.
Absolutely.
Richard Linklater's Before Midnight, Ida, which is a really outstanding German film or Austrian
that
film.
year. Yeah, I should have dug more into foreign films because Ida is fantastic.
I have Under the Skin. Short Term 12 is fantastic. Inside Llewyn Davis. Blue is the Warmest Color. And lastly, Dallas Buyers Club. Okay, so this was hard to do, but I think I've got it pretty set here. So number 5, I have David O. Russell's American Hustle. And I think that this movie, especially after rewatch it, well, the first intention, I remember the first reactions coming out of this movie, people were pretty split. Audience critics were pretty split about this movie and the narrative structure. Obviously, like, creative liberties taken with this movie, but it feels so much like a David O. Russell movie. And I think Christian Bale is fantastic. I think Jennifer Lawrence is fantastic. Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner. I think they're all fantastic. I guess maybe looking back on it in comparison to the other movies that had came out that year that did better at the Academy Awards, it feels a little Oscar baity. But I rewatched it recently and was like, yeah, this story. The story flows and it's engaging and it's funny and it's interesting and I really like it, and it's hard to put that at number. I was debating a lot of the other honorable mentions above it, but I'm sitting with American Hustle at number 5.
Jason, or I'm sorry, Quentin. I just wanted to add, I think it's quite a flex from David O. Russell to have that opening scene where he spends like 5 to 10 minutes just like putting together Christian Bale's hair.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck is this movie?
Yeah. Yeah, I actually I remember seeing that in the theater. And I was like, this is, I don't know, because this is also sort of, bear in mind, the first year that I became like film was like ingrained in me. Like this was something that I was truly passionate about. So I was like, I got to see, you know, like I'd seen David O. Russell stuff in the past, and you know, this was like Oscar buzz and all this stuff. So I was like, I have to go and see this movie. And like, I don't even know if I loved it at first. And I bought the Blu-ray when it got released, and I watched it again, and I've watched it in years since. And I really appreciate these kind of movies, and when they're handled with the kind of craft that O. Russell makes his movies with, I just sort of have to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
So coming in at number 4 was Al's number 1, and that is The Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh yeah.
I think that this is one of Scorsese's strongest movies. I think it is one of the. I think it is one of his only 3-hour movies that does not seem like it's 3 hours, because it's paced so well. It just flies, and I think it's his funniest movie. The rewatchability. I legitimately think that this movie is going to be timeless, and from what I know, you know, it's very very accurate to the Jordan Belfort like story. So I mean, I think The Wolf of Wall Street is absolutely fantastic, and I'm with you on the fact that DiCaprio probably should have, because I think if this movie doesn't exist, the Career Achievement Award that he receives for The Revenant just 3 years later, or 2 years later, like, doesn't happen. So yeah, Wolf of Wall Street and number 4.
I never quite understood why they decided to just say it's not Leo's time. Let's just give it to fucking Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. It was really weird, because I believe Jared Leto also won Best Supporting Actor. So, and like Dallas Buyers Club was in my honorable mentions. I think it's a good movie, and that's really all that movie has going for it is performances, and I think it's why I like it so much. But yeah, it's almost like something, I mean, maybe in recent years, that you don't see like multiple, like one singular movie winning multiple acting awards.
Right.
So
I'll tell you what, McConaughey should have won the Best Supporting Actor for Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You got to pump those numbers up.
Rookie numbers.
Yeah. Those are rookie numbers.
But yeah, and it also doesn't feel very Scorsese-y, which I really enjoy quite a bit, actually. But yeah, no, Wolf of Wall Street is my number 4 favorite of that year. So number 3, I have Denis Villeneuve's Prisoners. It was his second big feature, but the first one that I had seen. That it was my introduction to him as a filmmaker, and I when I watched the movie, I feel like sometimes when I watch a movie, I feel like I am, especially these crime dramas, I'm there, like I'm in the interrogation room, I'm there with everything. I felt like I was Jake Gyllenhaal's like partner in this movie. And Jake Gyllenhaal, by the way, that dude is never bad in anything that he's in. He is the best part of this movie by far. And the movie is so gritty, and it's slimy, and it's dirty, and it's depressing. And like the color palette is perfect. for this movie. I don't think there's sun in a single shot in this movie. Like, every frame is a painting, and I enjoy the shit out of this movie. And because of this movie made me anticipate every Villeneuve release thereafter, in the same way that I'm anticipating Dune. I mean, I can't shake the way that this guy makes his movies. This is a guy that cares, and I absolutely love Prisoners. At the time, this was my favorite movie of 2013, and it has since changed. But I absolutely love Prisoners. I think it's a great movie. If you have not seen it, I highly recommend it.
Before you move on, I would just say the two movies that Jake Gyllenhaal is indeed bad in are Okja and Velvet Buzzsaw. Terrible in both those movies.
Oh God, I forgot about Velvet Buzzsaw. I redact my statement.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
But Okja, I don't know. It was like he was on speed in that movie.
Yeah, it did not work for me. But all right, Quentin, number 2.
Number 2 is my second favorite Spike Jonze movie ever, behind being John Malkovich, and that is Her. I believe some people call this one of the greatest. For some people, this is the greatest movie of the 2010s. I personally think it's a Social Network.
Right there with you.
Yeah,
Social Network. Yeah.
I don't like. If I were to hand somebody a script that says, here's a script about a guy that falls in love with a computer,
Mm-hmm.
my expectation is that I would be slapped in the face and blackballed by everybody, because like that, it's such a strange premise. But when you take something like this and you put Joaquin Phoenix in the lead role and Scarlett Johansson, and you give it the Spike Jonze treatment that he handles his movies with, I'm interested to hear your guys at some point in time, Eric and Alan's and Jay's take on that Beastie Boys live documentary Spike Jonze did, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think this movie is so fantastic, and it's emotional. It's great. It's so well shot. Every time I rewatch it, it's a movie that I thought Criterion would pick up by now, so we would get like a super enhanced Blu-ray that was like packed with special features and essays on this shit, because I've waited for it for so long. But I absolutely love this movie. But it is not my number one. My number one is Steve McQueen's 12 Years a Slave. Full disclosure, for anyone that has not seen this movie at this point, this movie is tough. It is a tough watch, especially in 2020. I would say more than years recent. But Steve McQueen is another meticulous filmmaker that makes really, like, he's made, and it's been a lot of Fassbender movies like Shame and Hunger. He's made movies that sort of are just like very hard to digest, and they're about very adult subject matter, and they're very like mature films. And this movie, I think of all these movies, is probably the most beautifully shot. There's the scene that's super hard, hard to watch, with Chiwetel Ejiofor. His character is hanging from a tree, and his feet are barely touching the ground, and he lingers on a wide shot of him there for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then a close-up on his feet for another 2 minutes, just barely touching the ground. And it is a beautiful shot. And I think that this story is so great. I think it could have been handled by no one other than Steve McQueen. There's a reason that this movie won Best Picture, and I really do believe that. It is my favorite movie of that year after much sort of reconsideration and the way that my appreciation for movies has grown in the past 7 years. But yeah, I just, man, I love this movie. I think it is an important movie. It is a movie that will be studied for years to come. And yeah, it's 12 Years a Slave is my favorite movie of 2013.
All right, Jason, what you got in the honorable mentions department?
Yeah, I just have 5 honorable mentions. I will say, Eric, actually, Flicksation probably shaped a little bit of 2013 for me as far as watching movies. It was definitely listening to the podcast at that time. And some of these movies definitely were watched because of podcasts I listened to.
Nice.
Thank you, because there's some crazy fucking movies I got to see that year because of it. So starting off with number 10 is one recommended from the show. It was a Ben Wheatley movie, A Field in England.
Yes. Nice.
Oh my God. What a crazy movie.
Yeah.
Another one recommended from the show, and I love the music that this guy puts into his movies, but I'm going to go with Wrong Cops.
Quentin Depew. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Nuts. Yeah. Eric
And he had
Warheim.
2 movies that year, right? Wrong and then Wrong Cops.
Yeah, Wrong and Wrong Cops. Yeah. Not connected in any way, except the head cop, the main cop in Wrong Cops shows up for like 5 seconds in Wrong.
Weird.
Both good movies, by the way. Prisoners, for all the reasons both of you guys have mentioned, just a great movie. American Hustle comes in at my number 7, and A Place Beyond the Pines comes in at my number 6.
Hell yeah. So far, 3 for 3.
It just, it's no Blue Valentine, I guess. It had a chance to be a great, I think Ian said that on one of the podcasts, to be his great epic, and it just kind of fails in that third act.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but we were all big on Act 1, the Ben Mendelsohn heavy Ryan Gosling act there.
Yes.
I think we were all a little split on 2, which was the Ray Liotta segment, and I don't think any of us liked the third act at all. So, yeah.
I do not like the third act at all. I think it significantly weakens the film. The Ryan Gosling and Ben Mendelsohn act is one of the strongest first acts I've seen in a movie. Yeah. But
I like the Ray Liotta stuff too, though.
Oh yeah, the Ray Liotta stuff is great. Yeah.
But Ray Liotta's kid, not so much.
But yeah, it definitely does fall short of my top 5. So my number 5 is directly inspired by the show, Upstream Color. It's because of the show that I learned about this movie. I would not have known about it. Watched it. I've watched it a couple times. There's a lot to take in there, but it is an amazing movie, a very well shot movie. I don't know what else to say.
It's a mood film. You have to, it's a film nerd film, and it's a mood film. So, yeah, my guess is if you know a little iffy by the 15-minute mark, probably just hang it up. It's just gonna get weird.
I tried watching it. I had absolutely no clue what was going on. I just remember there was a pig.
Well, there were a few, but yeah. Pigs, worms, orchids, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah. But definitely, because of the show, had to watch that movie and really dug the movie itself. Number 4 for me, The Spectacular Now. I'm not familiar with anything else that this director has ever done, but Miles Teller and the female lead, I don't know her name. are absolutely
Oh,
amazing. in this
Shailene
movie.
Woodley.
Yeah, Shailene Woodley.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both amazing in their roles. There is like a little bit of soapiness that happens kind of in that late second, getting into the third act. That, yeah, I get it, but I could forgive the movie for that. I still love it. My number 3, Inside Llewyn Davis. I don't know why it is the Coen brothers have that like every other movie factor at this point that I seem to really love, but Inside Llewyn Davis.
Kind of with you there, yeah. A.L. Caesar,
movie.
not a big fan. So,
Quinton, you touched on this as your number 2 as well. Her by Spike Jonze. Yeah, I don't even know what else to say other than no one else could have made the movie but him, and no one else could have played the roles other than Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson.
Well, so I have a question for you guys. Is it coincidental or sort of like a thing with Joaquin Phoenix that you look at him and you kind of think incel?
I mean, maybe a little bit, sure. Yeah, I mean, especially after Joker, but
Right.
But yeah.
It seems like he kind of started with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair. Number 1 has been talked about as well already. Love this movie. Not only does Leonardo put up the amazing performance, but Jonah Hill does, as the whole cast does. Wolf of Wall Street, Martin Scorsese. Love that movie.
Hell yeah.
all right. So yeah, that was my number 1 back at the time, at the end of 2013. I will say it just made my honorable mentions here as I kind of reevaluated. This is fluid. I would say the 5 on my top 5 are movies I'd most likely watch multiple times. It's kind of the way I went with this, looking at it now. But yeah, a bunch of honorable mentions too to clean up here since you guys did not mention. Frances Ha, a great film that year. Fruitvale Station, I'm with you guys there. Her, also making my honorable mentions. James Gray's The Immigrant, a little more Joaquin Phoenix there for you. In a World, this one I highly recommend for any film nerd. It's kind of the life of like the voiceover guys, in a world. So it's this gal tries to make her way on the scene, and it's a very tight world that she's trying to break into. But I think that's a fantastic nerd film. It's very funny.
Is
check
that
it
the
out.
Lake Bell one?
It is the Lake Bell movie. So
okay, yeah, I still want to see that.
Upstream Color, making my honorable mentions. Jackass's Bad Grandpa, making my honorable mentions. A lot of vitriol behind this one, but for whatever reason, it was so big and dumb, I kind of dug it still. The big Lone Ranger reboot came out that year.
Oh, wow.
Kelly Reichardt's Night Moves. Dustin Critton's Short Term 12. All good films from 2013. So here are the 5 that I kind of stick to here. 3 of these being films I saw at Telluride. 12 Years a Slave also on my honorable mentions. I saw that there too. Number 5, Jason, you mentioned it, Wrong Cops. It's pretty hard to find a Quentin Dupieux movie that I don't like quite a bit. And this is my second favorite, right behind Rubber, which is a film I love quite a bit. But that's number 5, Wrong Cops. Number 4, Jeff Nichols' Mud. Non-Dallas Buyers Club version of Matthew McConaughey in that one. Number 3, I saw this at Telluride. Villeneuve's Prisoners. Yes, a fantastic film. The most suspenseful film I saw at the film festival that year. Number 2, Inside Llewyn Davis. Big fan of that film. I think that probably was my number 2 back on Flicksation as well. And number 1, creeping up into the number 1 slot. much lighter than a lot of these heavy subject films of 2013, but Alexander Payne's Nebraska. They had a blast with this one at Telluride, laughing at Bruce Dern, Will Forte, and Jane Squibb there. So, big fan of Nebraska. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I will say a couple that Quinton mentioned. If I considered them 2013 films, they would almost certainly be on there, as especially Under the Skin, which didn't release in the U.S. till 2014, so that's kind of in my book as a 2014 film. I saw that at Telluride as well in 2013, but yeah, that's my number one film of 2014 on the Flicksation Podcast. So that's a fantastic film. I consider that 2014, but yeah. Good work, guys. Definitely a lot more excited about the films I was on this one than the music. But 80s, once you get past like the late 80s or late 90s, it's definitely tough for me music-wise. But fun to kind of take a stab at this. Alan, how did it work for you here? Fun?
Oh, yeah, this is great. And especially having this episode right in between Christmas and New Year's. This is a blast. It's good to talk to you guys again, especially you, Quentin and Jason. This is fucking awesome that we got the two of you on together at the same time.
Absolutely. Jason, Quentin, thanks.
Yeah, no, of course. This was super great. I'm glad that we were able to get this done and sort of switch up on the norm for years. This is it's always such a pleasure talking with you guys, and I have an absolute blast coming on here. So thank you, honestly.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys, as well. Quentin, very, very happy to do the year that you graduated. That was a lot of fun. And Eric, Al, yeah, great time. Great movies that year.
And I gotta say, Nebraska, okay, so I do really like that movie. The thing is, though, is now when I watch it, I can't help feeling it is a smidge too slow for me.
Yeah. You do live life in the fast lane, Al, I would say. Yeah, especially with that Telluride. That's not one that was really way up on my anticipating list when I was going to that festival, and I loved it. And they always have a short before each film at Telluride, and this one actually had a George Plimpton short, and he was in attendance and talked about it before it was played and stuff too. So that's fantastic. Wow. I'm a big George Plimpton fan. So,
hey, nice. Was Barry Jenkins there?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, because I know Barry Jenkins, I think, became a regular at Telluride.
Yeah, if he was, I didn't run across him, but I did. I believe Teller of Penn and Teller fame was in the urinal between Robert and I after taking a whiz after the first film we saw, which was Palo Alto, the Gia Coppola film. Oh. That was opening night of the festival. Francis Ford was there to take in his granddaughter's film, so he was kind of holding court in the lobby, pissing next to Teller. It was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. So it was a crazy, crazy night. Yeah, 2013. Thanks a lot, guys. Always fun. Happy New Year to everybody listening to the episode as well. And then it looks like we will be talking about the best films of 2020 sometime early in February, as per usual. Oscars going later this year. Al, is there a date on this now, or what are we doing here?
Yeah, so they're announcing the Oscar nominations around mid to late February, and the Oscars are not until April 25th.
Holy mackerel. So
yeah,
a couple months after we do our list on Flicksation. So yeah, I got about I don't know, 20 films I want to clean up between now and then. So I got about a month to do it as of recording this. So that is the plan.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I have to fix the record. It's not mid to late February. The Oscar nominations are coming out in mid-March because the window of eligibility has to be through the end of February.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
So, which is kind of confusing because, like, people are doing their top 10 movies of the year list now, but yet the Oscars will include 2 more months of stuff that hasn't been released yet.
Yeah. Crazy. We were actually discussing not even doing that this year, but I think we are going to give it a shot anyway. But who knows? Things could change between now and then. But yeah, we got some content already in the can for you for January, including talk of the first film in the Small Axe series by Steve McQueen, we mentioned on this show. Mangrove, we get into that, and some other films here as January goes through. So thanks, everybody. I hope you all had a happy holiday season and a happy new year. Thanks again to Alan, Jason, and Quinton for joining me here on the Friday Fix, talking 2013. Thanks, everybody, and we will catch you on the Flick side.